Good Friday morning. This is our final teaching on patience, 5-minute devotion. I was thinking this week about my duty as a pastor and various things that I try to do for the help and the edification of the people in the church. In fact, one of the commands for the preacher found in 2 Timothy 2 and verse 24 is that the servant of the Lord must be patient. And that's actually a very helpful teaching for somebody who's not very patient sometimes. So I need to be obedient to that. But sometimes things happen in the preacher's life that causes him to not be patient even with the Lord. And we need to be patient with the Lord. James tells us, "Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord." And then he gives this explanatory statement: "Behold, the husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth, and hath long patience for it, until he receive the early and latter rain." Then he says, "Be ye also patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord draweth nigh." We moved my parents in here a few years back onto our property. They were both very healthy. They were excited about coming over here. Mom was excited. Dad became excited later after he got used to the idea. But not long after they were here, my mother suffered a series of strokes. My dad was diagnosed with bladder cancer. Things began to happen in their lives that slowed them down and changed everything going on about them in their life. Changed my ideas about what maybe I thought was going to happen here as well. And then in the past few years, I've suffered back problems pretty bad. And then just recently, I broke a bone in my lower back. And I'm looking at these things and I'm thinking, what in the world is going on? And then to top it all off, I bought some chickens not long ago, grown chickens, and none of them would lay. I bought 6 of them, 2 of them died, and now I'm getting about an egg a day. And I'm like, what in the world? Even my chickens won't lay. And somebody would say, "Preacher, you better repent of some sin then. You better get your life cleaned up." Well, if that is the sign that I'm not serving the Lord because of trials and troubles that come our way, then it's quite obvious that most of the men in the Bible needed to really repent, because the Lord sent many trials, and one that I think of in particular is Job. All of the things he suffered. But I want to be patient. I don't want to blame God unjustly. I don't want to become angry or bitter with God because things aren't going the way I'm wanting them to go. So I think it's very relevant to us that James would speak so strongly in 2 verses about being patient. "Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord." That is what we're looking for. It's not how many eggs my chickens lay, although that directly affects me in the day. It's not the health of my parents or the fact that my back is in good shape. It's none of those things. It is the coming of the Lord. "Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord." And I love that verse he uses there, in that verse, how he uses it to explain it in a way that makes so much sense to a fellow that has a garden. "The husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth." We watch our garden out here and pay attention to everything. How many blooms are on the squash plants? How are the tomatoes doing? And it says, "And he hath long patience for it, until he receive the early and latter rain." And then he says, "Be ye also patient." Be patient like that farmer is patient unto the coming of the Lord, because this life isn't going to be one of those lives where everything is just wonderful and we never have a problem or a bump in the road. So for a minister of the gospel who's commanded in 2 Timothy that the servant of the Lord must be patient, I would imagine that's not just to be patient with the people in his congregation, but it's probably to be patient with God. As God does things in the preacher's life to sanctify him and to cause him to think less of himself and more of the glory of God. I believe it's in one document. I cannot remember where it's found, but it makes the statement about the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. Unfortunately, I think we flip that. We think the chief end of God is to glorify man and to make him enjoy life forever. Let's make sure that we're faithful in understanding and believing the scriptural duties that are before us. And certainly one of them is patience.